This is a 2008 Dodge Ram 1500 with a 4.7 liter flex fuel engine. Today I want to replace the spark plugs. I looked on YouTube, I searched Google and other sites trying to find videos to demonstrate, to get some tips or suggestions. I didn't find anything, so I decided to make my own video. Alright, let's take a look from the outside. Here we have the coil. There are 8 of them. Under the coil is a spark plug. We also have a plug cable, and it goes to the traditional location for a spark plug, right down in there. So 16 plugs. Before we get started, there's a few things to remove to make it accessible. So I'll get started on that. One of the things we're going to remove is the air filter canister. It's pretty simple. We're going to undo this clamp here, separate that connection, and this whole box will lift. I'm also going to detach this vacuum hose. Then we're going to remove this air intake housing. This connects to the throttle body right back there. Alright, let's get started on it. Alright, I like to use a 4-way screwdriver. It's got a 5/16 tip. Very convenient. $10mm socket. Okay, the first thing we want to do before we start unbolting and disassembling anything is to cover up the throttle body inlet, because I'm going to be using compressed air to spray at the base of each coil to remove any dust that I can't see at this point. Okay, you can see that I covered the throttle body inlet with a rubber glove. Keep the dirt and dust from blowing in. There we go. Okay, each coil has its own power connector, and I'm going to show you real quickly a technique I use to remove them. You have to depress the tab right here and then remove the connector, and they can get pretty difficult to remove. And if you're careful with a screwdriver or other sort of wedge device, depress the connector and insert the screwdriver where you can, and just give it a little bit of a wiggle, and you can pop this connector right off. It's ready to go. Okay. Again, I have a 10mm deep socket, little 2-inch extension. There. is the first coil. I'm going to spray some more air down there and continue with the project. I'm also going to clean this up. Okay, so the first coil that I decided to replace turns out to be the one in the back, and it is the most difficult to reach.
Like this. I don't imagine I need to tell you.
Okay, here's a tip I discovered. Passenger side of the motor, the heater hoses kind of in the way a little bit. We can release a clip here. This bracket holding the hoses a little bit close to where I want to work. So I can release the clip. Okay, here's a tip for removing the spark plugs. It takes a 5/8 deep socket, but not a standard. It's a thin wall socket. I happen to have a Craftsman deep socket that's thin wall, and I utilized the keeper washer from an actual 5/8 spark plug socket, and I installed it into my thin wall socket. So you definitely have to have a thin wall 5/8 deep socket. In this case I'm using a swivel and a 6-inch extension. Okay, just about got this plug out. There it is. I'm going to put just a dab of anti-seize on the first few threads. We're also going to put a little bit of high temperature silicone grease right along here, just a thin layer, and we'll also put some on the boot. I'm going to take some of this silicone and put it just inside here. And definitely want some along here to seal it up. Doesn't take much, just a thin coating. I will also want some on the outside of this connection. And we'll also want some on the inside of the plug cable, and some on the outside of the boot and the inside for the second plug. Okay, all plugs are in. Time to reassemble the motor components on top. All hoses and all electrical are connected.